Competition beat us again.
How?
They have a better finance system than we do.
I feel like they might have a better finance system than we do.
Workday.
How do they make better decisions faster?
Workday.
It's gotta be something.
Workday.
I think I got something.
Work.
Rob, I think
Hey, Rob.
Yeah, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Hello.
There you go.
Hey, there he is.
Workday, the finance, HR, and planning system for a changing world.
Hi, I'm Luke Bailey. I'm the finance director at TUI Musement, which is part of TUI Group and is a leading player in the tours and activity space in leisure tourism. Some of the things that I've learned in the last 12 months, specifically around people, we talk around a lot of the customer behavior, how that's evolved, particularly in the tourism industry. But one of the things I like to think about and focus on is how has the employee experience changed, and how do our colleagues and the people who work for us now interact in this virtual world. The number one thing for me has been the impact of a fully virtual world to work in overnight. People working from home. This was an area we were exploring prior to the pandemic and starting to think about more flexible working practices. But clearly the pandemic overnight changed this. And although it took some time to adjust, and I think there are still pros and cons, people are now expecting a work anytime, anywhere type of policy going forward, and us as leaders in the business need to figure out how to facilitate this in the best possible way. There are some drawbacks, clearly. The whole work-home life balance has become a bit blurred. I know from myself, stepping out of this office, which is part of my garage, is only a few feet away from my house, and trying to differentiate between your work life and your home life has become even more difficult and requires us to become more disciplined around that. It also raises questions around how we cope with stress. And there are stresses at home, and the pandemic has amplified that. And I think it's amplified mental health issues as well. It's not a new problem. It's not a pandemic specific problem, but it's certainly amplified it. And again, how do we as leaders, as managers, really think about this and empathize and create a culture within our working space so that we can support our colleagues in the best possible way? The second thing for me is around how has leadership evolved? And I think this is an ongoing discussion that I really enjoy debating with some of my peers externally in different industries and in different companies, because we all know that communication is vitally important. Presence and as honest as possible is vitally important. But in a wholly virtual world, and specifically, I've got a very distributed workforce globally, leadership is continuing to evolve. And it's pulling on new capabilities that finance people in general didn't know they needed and don't necessarily have at the moment. We've clearly had the exceptional circumstance in the last 12 months where people may have been affected by working hour arrangements. There's been furlough schemes, some people fully furloughed, some half furloughed, some working full time. And each of those different scenarios brings different challenges with it from a leadership perspective. And as we emerge from the pandemic, I think that needs to be an ongoing conversation that we continue to have, and we're definitely learning almost every day in terms of how do we be more effective and how do we make sure we're achieving the business objectives but looking after our people in the best possible way. The third thing for me that is, again, a continual learn and something I think we have been learning is around what capabilities are needed in finance and what does our capability map look like in the future. Again, this is a pre-COVID discussion that we had definitely started, different technologies coming in and disrupting and giving us opportunities to work in a different way. But the pandemic has both accelerated it and also pushed us into new ways of working that we didn't necessarily expect before. Some of those more traditional capabilities like change management have become even more important as we operate in the grey and as we get uncertainty. There needs to be flexibility in the way we work and dealing with rapid transformation, which has affected many companies, has been top of people's priority list. But that's an existing capability and it needs to evolve. There are new capabilities around some of the more digital capabilities that actually some finance teams don't even have yet. And as we move forward and we continue our transformation in finance and we move away from tools such as Excel and PowerPoint, which I know at TUI we are still heavily reliant on, some of these capabilities are going to become even more important. And as a learning organization, we're already seeing that coming through. But in the future, I'm now thinking about, and again, talking to peers externally around how do we foster that? How do we know what the right capabilities are? And how do we talent manage in a new way to bring forward the finance professional of tomorrow and make sure we're setting our teams up in the right way? There are plenty of other lessons for the last 12 months, but for me personally, as I say, I'm very focused on the people agenda, and some of those things that I've been through are top of mind in terms of working from anywhere, anytime, and how that's disrupting us, how leadership has evolved and will continue to evolve, and how do we need to continue to develop our finance capability map. Thank you.